Hey artists, before we start, we're going to do a quick art history lesson, and we're going to start at the very beginning, like way long time ago, thousands and thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of years ago with cave paintings. Did you know that before stores were a thing, and before you could go to stores and go and buy paint, because that's where you get paint from, right, is a store, artists had to create all of the things that they created art with. They had to create that stuff too. So cave paintings were things that were painted with like crushed up rock, crushed up ash, even crushed up or burnt bone to give different kinds of color. They didn't have paper either. So what do you think that cave paintings were painted on? Yeah, the walls of a cave, like rocks. Later on, like in different times later on, different things were used to create color, but it was the same kind of idea. They had to create their own color. So we crushed up different things, still different rocks from different areas, different colors, different kinds of berries, leaves, all kinds of stuff. Yes, they were mixed with other things to kind of help them stick together, but the different things that they crushed up to give it the color are called pigment. Your goal today is to create your own paint that you don't have to go out and buy from the store. You only have to create one. However, I'm going to show you how to create all different kinds. That way you don't have to experiment. You can watch me experiment, and then you can decide what you would like to go make your paint with. So go through your kitchen and find different things that you think would make pretty colors. Like go through your spice pantry. I have some cinnamon, some paprika, some turmeric. You can go through your refrigerator. Different things like juices would work. I have some chocolate syrup. Yum. You can use some ketchup. I even have some berries, some blueberries that I'm going to crush up. So what can you find? Things that are really popular right now, even though we have stores and we can go buy paint, something that's really popular for artists right now is to use coffee. So if you have any old coffee and you're just going to throw it out, don't throw it out. Use it when it's cold and not hot, of course. But you only have to create one. So Mrs. House, how am I supposed to make a beautiful painting with only one color? Well, I will tell you, because we have actually done that before in a lot of our grades. It is called a monochromatic painting. That's such a big word. I forget what monochromatic means. Well, mono means one, chroma and chromatic means color. So monochromatic means one color. So you are only going to create a painting using one color, but you're going to use different values. Value is our word of the day today, so give me a whoop whoop. Value, whoop whoop, means the lightness and darkness of a color. So if I had a blue and a yellow, I think blue is darker than yellow. Are those two different colors or two different values? Blue and yellow are two different colors, not two different values. But if I had a dark blue and a light blue, are those two different colors or two different values? Yeah, they're two different values because they're both blue. One is dark and one is light, so they are two different values. So let's look first how to create our own paint, and then we're going to use that paint to make a monochromatic painting, a painting with one color and lots of different values. Make sure that you read below to see how many values you need to have in your painting because it is different for all the grades. Now I have a whole bunch of supplies out that I'm going to test out and kind of show you what I'm talking about when we make our own paint. But you do not have to use this many. You really only have to find one thing to make your painting with. So I'm going to go ahead and get these started. Some of them I don't need to do anything with, like the coffee, the soy sauce, the orange juice, but some of them need a little bit of prep. So I'm going to add a couple of things. The first thing that I'm going to do is take that purple cabbage and I'm going to add vinegar. Now water would probably work, but just like when you dye eggs, the vinegar is actually going to make the color a little bit brighter and a little bit stronger. I have rice vinegar. That's just what I have. Probably white distilled vinegar would be best for this. No, you do not have to do this, but that's just what I have. And so I'm going to go ahead and let that sit. This is going to take probably the longest. I would say 20 to 30 minutes on this, just letting it sit and really make a nice purple color. For everything else, I'm going to go ahead and use just a little bit of spices, add a little bit of water, stir, 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 and you want to find the right consistency. It could be a little bit thick. I think that if it's a little bit thick, it's going to be better because you're going to be able to thin it out than if you have too much water in the beginning. So you can always add more water, but it's harder to take water out. I'm going to take all of my paints that I created and I'm going to make a little sample for myself so I know what each one is going to look like before I go into making my painting. This will help me make some decisions on what kind of paint I would like to make. I'm going to try to get as many different values from each color that I can. Remember, value is how light or how dark something is. So for each paint that I make, I'm going to try to make some of them dark and light all in the same square. When I was practicing with my colors this way, I made an observation. I noticed that the colors that I mixed myself, the paprika, the ground mustard, the turmeric, and I added water to them, it was easy to make them darker or lighter by adding more or less water. The more water I had, the lighter they became. But the paints that I did not have to mix, like the orange juice, the coffee, soy sauce, and the cabbage, the ones that just already had the water, I had to let those dry and then paint another layer on top, let it dry, paint another layer on top to make it darker. The more layers I had, the darker they got. But these ones did take a little bit more time, but the colors did get brighter and brighter. I love all the bright colors that were created by the things that I found in my kitchen. That's so awesome. So with those, I'm going to create a couple of different examples that you can make with your own kitchen paints. So I'm going to first create a landscape. A landscape is a picture of, you guessed it, land. It can be anything. It can be with mountains. It could be a landscape maybe with a barn in the background. You could draw a beach. I'm going to choose a mountainscape with some simple hills and some simple mountain shapes. So I'm going to start with my trees in the front with some very light triangles. I'm making them kind of wavy because trees have wavy lines. They're natural, not straight lines. But I am making them simple with a variety of sizes and shapes. Some are big, some are small. I'm drawing some big curves for some hills and then some jagged mountains in the background. I'm drawing really lightly so my pencil doesn't show up through the paint. I'm drawing it light enough so I can see it, but when I'm done painting, you might not be able to see the lines. First, I'm going to choose my paint. I think for this one, I'm going to choose the soy sauce. I remembered from my trials that the soy sauce was the one that I had to do layers. It was hard to make it darker while the paint was still wet. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint over everything, just kind of ignore my lines for first and make a really light layer. And then I'm going to let that dry and then go back. When I go back over to make some parts darker, I'm not going to go back over the whole paper, but I'm just going to go back over some parts that I want to make darker. So I want to make my landscape look like some things are further away. So the background, the furthest part away should be my mountains. So that is going to be some of my lightest spots. The lightest spot should be the sky. The mountains, which are furthest away besides for the sky, should be a little bit darker than the sky, but the lightest part. The darkest part should be the trees that are in the very, very front. So I'm going to go over those, being very careful to now make my tree triangle shapes. Going to let them dry and go back over them again. So the stuff in front should be the darkest. The stuff in the middle should be the middle, not too dark, not too light. And the stuff in the way, way back, like the sky and the mountains, should be the lightest value. That's called having space. So we've used lines to create our drawing. We're using color, baby color, with our paint, we're using value, making some of them dark and light, and we're also using space. Look at all of that elements of art that we've added in this one little painting. A trick that I used to use in the art room all the time was when I want to speed up the drying process, pull out a hairdryer or a fan. That works. When I want to make some of the things darker, now I'm only painting over the trees, and I'm going to leave like the sky and the stuff in the middle alone, and I'm only going to paint some things again over and over and over again. The more layers you add, the darker your values are going to be. I'm going to do this a couple of times, but each time I'm painting less and less of the painting and leaving some of the parts alone. All right, I'm ready for my last and final layer. It's looking so awesome. Now remember, to add value, you have to let it dry, make a layer, let it dry, make a layer, painting less and less and less. To make space, to make it look like things are closer or further away, the things closer to you are darker, the things further away are lighter. Your second option is to make a much different design. So instead of creating a landscape, you can create a design with patterns and repeated shapes. I chose to do folk art flowers like our artist that we've studied before, Heather Goller. I'm going to do it the same way though that I did with the soy sauce. This time I'm using the cabbage with the vinegar, and I painted the entire thing first, let it dry. Then I'm going to go back and paint in just parts of the flowers that I want to make darker, like the petals, let it dry. Then paint the middles, let them dry, paint the petals again. Maybe only paint certain flowers. Maybe certain flowers I want them to look closer to me, so I'm going to make them darker, so I'm going to give them more layers. Maybe some things I want them to be lighter, so I'm only going to paint 1 or 2 layers and then leave them alone. Keep going, keep adding layers until some of the things are dark, some of them are light, and some of them are in between. Your last option is a self-portrait. Remember, a self-portrait is a picture of yourself. If you want to look in the mirror or look at a picture of yourself while you're drawing, it might be helpful. I'm going to make the nose first. That's the middle of the paper and the middle of the face. I'm making mine like a J shape. 2 football shapes for eyes. Add eyelashes if you'd like. Don't forget the pupils in the middle. Look and see what kind of expression you want. Do you want to make yourself look happy? That's going to change the shape of your eyebrows. I'm going to give myself a nice big smile because I am happy to be creating art with you guys today. My face is a U shape. My ears are 2 C shapes. Look in the mirror and see what kind of hairstyle you have. Is your hair long? Is it short? Is it curly? Is it wavy? Is it spiky on top? 2 lines that go down on both sides that are kind of curved out for my neck. 2 curves that go all the way down to the bottom of my paper for my shoulders. Don't forget your shirt, and you can add any accessories you like earrings, a hat, a necklace, sunglasses, maybe regular glasses. For my paint, I'm going to use the paprika that I mixed with water. I remember that the less water I had, the darker the paint looked. The more water I added, the lighter it was. I'm going to paint the hair first, and then I'm going to go ahead and add in little details like my eyebrows and my eyes and my mouth and my shirt. I want some of those to not all be the same value. I want some of them to be lighter and some of them to be darker. When I paint my skin, I want that to be much lighter than my hair, so I'm going to add way more water and make it way lighter. I'm going to make inside my mouth darker, and maybe my shirt, I'll make it the darkest, so I'm going to add more paint.